Hello students, how are you all doing? I'm hoping that all of you are doing well. I'm hoping that your revisions are going properly, right? So I was really happy to see the comments in the last class that there were quite a few people who were able to revise it well, who were able to answer well, right? For some people who might have happened, like there is a possibility that some questions you have gotten it wrong, and no issues at all. You have a lot of time to practice it. You have a lot of time to fill your gaps, right? What we'll do is we'll just take a look at the questions that we had discussed in the last class, and then we'll move on to the places that are associated with May 2025. And in that regard, the first question that we had seen was with respect to Tutu Island and where is it located at the confluence of which two streams. This was on the river Nile, and the streams were Blue and White Nile, right? Blue and White Nile. In this context, you will have to remember that this is a alluvial riverine island similar to Majuli Island on the Brahmaputra, right? And here what you will find is what are the other aspects related to it. So say for example, Sahel region or all these things that you will have to remember. Next is with respect to the Red Sea. How is it formed? Due to rifting. East African Rift Valley, right, receives major river inflow. It does not receive, that is why it is very having a high degree of salinity, because it does not receive any major river inflow. It connects Mediterranean to the Suez Canal. Of course, this is correct, right? So 1 and 3 are correct. Next, the Taiwan Strait connects east to South China Sea, right? So the answer is A. Next is Mount Canlon is best described as composite volcano. Now you will have to remember the differentiation between these different volcanoes, which is very destructive, which is not as destructive, right? So you will have to go through these particular aspects. Next is with respect to Tanzania. So which are the features that we had seen with respect to Tanzania? There was Mount Kilimanjaro at the northern portion. Then there is Serengeti National Park just below Mount Kilimanjaro and all the different regions that were associated with it, right? And lastly, it is on the East African Rift Valley. Answer is 1, 2 and 3. Sea of Marmara connects which two regions? So it will be Aegean to the Black Sea, right? That is why Sea of Marmara is having two straits, Bosphorus and Dardanelles. I had asked you that which is the strait that is there with respect to the last portion. So I'm happy that some of you have gotten it correct. Some of you were not able to answer it properly, but do try and notice it properly, because these are the regions that are associated with the Russian-Ukraine conflict, Crimean Peninsula, right? Kerch Strait, of course, we are talking about. So these were the different questions that we had seen in the last class. Now we will come back to our portion. Now, any place that you are going to remember or you are going to look at, you have to look at some important dimensions through which UPSC is asking you questions. These will be, of course, first the location. Of course, this is related to basic mapping, but not just the region that is being asked, but all around it also, right? Then physical geography, strategic aspects and current affairs, right? So that is how you are going to explore these places. In that regard, the first place that you are going to see with respect to today is the Democratic Republic of Congo. Now, this is an important country right in the middle of Africa, right? So this is a very important country. It is, of course, in Africa. The news was related to a very catastrophic flood that has happened, and you will find this in Central Africa, right? Here is the next important aspect that you will have to remember, that there is equator passing through it. So equator is passing through this particular country. Now, if equator is passing through it, that means it will have an equatorial climate, right? It will have an equatorial climate. Equatorial rainforests are associated with it. So here there is equatorial rainforests. Now, why is equatorial rainforest so important here? Because after Amazon, this particular area is having the second largest equatorial rainforest after Amazon. So This is the second largest equatorial rainforest after Amazon, right? So it is not the largest, but it is after Amazon, it's a second largest. Next, in this particular region, you will find a very, very important river. That is River Congo. You can see it from the name itself, Democratic Republic of Congo. So this river is giving the country its name only. That means it is going to be dominated by this particular river. It is a very, very important river, right? It is so important. It is so important that basically its whole geography is dominated by this particular river, right? This country, now, before we continue with the Congo portion, you will have to remember which are the important countries with respect to Africa and what are their sizes. So this is the second largest country by area, है ना? After किसके बाद? So it after Algeria, this is the second largest country by area. Algeria is the largest, but not very much. Like there is just a few square kilometers difference, right? So this is the second largest country by area. Now, Congo River Basin is such a huge basin that it causes regular floods, landslides, and humanitarian crisis again and again, right? Another reason is because it is lying on the equatorial region and it is having high rainfall, very high rainfall. So that will lead to the swelling of the river, and that will lead to frequent floods in this particular river, in River Congo. So that will create a lot of havoc for the people who are living in this particular region, especially why? Because from like the eastern regions where it flows from, it is having some height. There is a steep gradient there, right? As it runs off, there is a lot of flood potential that happens. Other aspect is that because it is very, very mineral rich, so there is a lot of deforestation that is happening. So there is a lot of deforestation that is happening. So when these floods come about, right, they are causing a lot of destruction also, because these roots, these forests that would have stopped it or lessened the impact are not there, are quickly being cleared up, right? So in this regard, it is a very, very important aspect. In this particular portion, what you can remember is that these rivers are having a huge role in this particular climate, okay, in this particular region, in this particular climate. Next is, what you have to remember is that there is Lake Victoria here, right? Now, we see that this particular country is bordering which country that we had seen in the last class, that there was Tanzania just on the eastern border. But you would remember from Tanzania's geography that Lake Victoria is on the northern side of Tanzania. That means this particular country is not having any borders with Lake Victoria. In fact, the next important thing that you have to remember is that it is not an Indian Ocean region country, but an Atlantic opening is there. So it has an opening in the Atlantic Ocean, right? It has an opening in the Atlantic Ocean, right? So these are some of the basic things that you will have to remember. With respect to River Congo, you can remember one thing. Can you tell me which is the river that is having the highest discharge with respect to discharge of water in the world? So Congo River is the second largest river in the world by discharge. Which is the largest river by water discharge? So second largest is Congo. Let's see how many of you are able to tell me the largest one. So this is the second largest river by water discharge. There is a lot of water that is there in this particular river. Okay. So these are the different types of aspects that you can expect from this particular location. Lastly, of course, the question, that is, let's see how many of you are able to get it correct. You will have to pause it here and then we will see it or discuss it in the next class. You can pause it here and try and answer this question. Shall we? Next is the country of Lebanon, right? Where is it? It is in West Asia. Now, West Asia is also known as Middle East. So, you do not have to get confused. West Asia is also correct. Middle East is also correct, right? It is on the Mediterranean Sea. It is on the Mediterranean Sea. So, it has an opening towards the Mediterranean, right? It is bordering Syria on the east and north and Israel to the south. So, Israel is at the southern portion, Syria is north and eastern portion, right? It is not having any borders with any other country, right? North and east, Syria, Israel to the south, and west is with respect to Mediterranean. Next, mostly by most accounts, it is a terrorist organization called Hezbollah. Hezbollah is associated with this particular country, right? So, Hezbollah is operating or was operating from this particular country, right? That is why again it becomes an important area for our UPSC purposes, and you will have to know, okay, Hezbollah is in which particular region, which is the country, which are the bordering areas, right? Next is, what you can also expect a question from is that what is the Levant region, and which are the countries that are associated with this Levant region. I am hoping that most of you know that there was ISIL, so that Islamic State in Iraq and Levant, Islamic State in Levant or ISIL has that particular name called Levant. So, what is this Levant all about? Which are the countries? Which are the countries associated with it? Which are the countries not in the Levant region? So, is Israel in the Levant region or not, right? Is, say for example, this particular island called Cyprus, is it in the Levant region or not, right? Which are the countries associated with it, right? So, is Israel there? Is Jordan there, right? Is Syria there? Is Lebanon there, right? So, you will have to know that, okay, what is this Levant region all about? Okay, you can expect a particular aspect, a particular question from this. Next is that in Lebanon only, you will find again that Rift Valley's extension called Bekaa Valley. You remember, this was part of the East African Rift Valley, because of which there is a opening that is happening, and because of which there is Red Sea, because of which there is a separation going on between Africa and the Arabian Peninsula, right? So, in that regard, you will find that there is a Bekaa Valley, which is part of the Rift Valley's extension, and it is found in Lebanon, right? And other things are also associated here. There is Golan Heights and all, but these are some of the important aspects to it. You will have to remember that it is not lying on the Persian Gulf, right? This can be a statement that Lebanon lies on the Persian Gulf. It is not there, it is on the Mediterranean coast, right? So, that is all. The question with respect to this particular portion can be asked is this. You can pause it here and we will discuss it in the next class. All right. Next is Lonza Valley, right? Now, this is in Switzerland, right? There is a glacial flood that happened, right? A very devastating flood that has happened in Switzerland, right? Now, in this particular region, in this particular region, especially here in Blatten, there used to be a glacier, or there is, these particular regions are associated with many of the glacial formations, right? In that, with respect to glaciers, there are dams of, these are natural dams of ice and silt, right? Of ice and silt, which when they are getting broken apart due to many reasons, it can be earthquakes, it can be seismic activity, it can be other reasons also, right? So when these dams break, they will create, or they will form a important phenomena called GLOF. This we have seen in case of Sikkim also. Do you know what is this GLOF called? Glacial Lake Outburst Flood, right? Glacial Lake Outburst Flood. I think 2023, Sikkim had witnessed this kind of flood. Now, what is happening? So basically, these dams of ice and silt are somehow breaking apart, right? And due to this collapse of the glacier, these debris is flowing towards the region. So these were these natural glacial dams, which will, these glacial dams will collapse due to many reasons, of course, and this will lead to a lot of debris flowing down, right? And there is a huge aspect of sudden floods that might happen. That is why outburst, right? Glacial outburst, right? So this we have seen in case of Sikkim also in 2023, that there was such a phenomena that happened. This time in Switzerland it has happened near Blatten, right? So the news was, of course, because of this particular landslide in Blatten, this phenomena was witnessed. And in this, you will have to remember that what kind of this silt is called, or what are these glacial deposits known as. So what we are seeing here is that what is this deposit called, and what are the things that are getting deposited here. So in this regard, this collapse is happening where there are an important aspect called moraines, right? This has, UPSC has already asked this. So moraine dammed lakes, and these moraines are really important. UPSC has already asked them before in different exams. These are associated with glaciers only, right? So moraines are, these are the basic deposits that are creating a natural dam, right? When they are collapsing, say for example due to landslide or any other reason, seismic activity, it can also be there, right? When they are collapsing, a lot of debris is falling, and then sudden floods happen, right? So these are with respect to the alpine geomorphology, especially very cold climates. But when it happens, it causes a lot of damage, and we have seen it with respect to our own Sikkim region. Next is the island region called, okay, so with respect to this aspect of glacial lake outburst floods are most likely in the regions characterized by. So let's see how many of you are able to correctly answer this, and you can pause it here and then tell me what is the most appropriate answer according to you. All right, let's continue. Okay, so this particular Lonza Valley, another question also I have put up, because there we saw in some of the PYQs, this kind of question is also coming. So Lonza Valley recently in news is associated with which geomorphological setting? right? We have already seen these kind of things. Let's see how much you are able to remember. So Lonza Valley, recently in news, this kind of question UPSC has asked before. That is why these two different types of questions we have asked from this particular topic. Next is Chagos Islands. Now I'm hoping that you know that this particular Chagos Island is again in news after Trump's outburst, right? And so this is part of which country? Mauritius, right? This is part of Mauritius, right? Now, there is an important historical phenomena attached to it. So, what happened was, at first it was a French colony, then it got transferred to the British. Now, it is part of the British Indian Ocean Territory. British Indian Ocean Territory. This is a group of 60 islands, out of which the largest one is called Diego Garcia. This is the largest one, called Diego Garcia. Now, with respect to this particular dispute, what is happening is UK is giving back the sovereignty to the Mauritius government, but what is happening is that this Diego Garcia Island or airbase has been agreed to that it will be on lease for the next 99 years. That is jointly operated by US and UK. It is really important base for the US government, right? Now, in this regard, what you can remember is that is it above or below the equator? So, if you would see these Chagos archipelago, this Chagos archipelago is below the equator, है ना? Not in the क्या Bay of Bengal region, but in the Indian Ocean region, below which territory of ours? So of course the Lakshadweep, है ना, region. Next, what you can remember is what are other aspects that are there in this particular area. So you can remember the IOR region. That is a possibility that you can remember that what is the IOR region, what are the countries that are related to BIMSTEC, right? BIMSTEC regions, okay? Which are the countries that are associated, like closest to it? So there is also Maldives, right? There is also Maldives in this particular region, right? And Diego Garcia, of course, it is with respect to US and UK, right? Indo-Pacific region, British Indian Ocean Territory region. Which are the other islands that are associated with British Indian Ocean Territory? Okay. And of course, there are other aspects, but these are some really important things that you can associate with this particular region. Where is it? It is in the Mauritius, right? Just below Maldives, which is just below Lakshadweep, in the Indian Ocean, right? British Indian Ocean Territory, right? Which are the countries around it, right? Which is the country that is having its dispute? So it is the UK. It is United Kingdom's dispute. But there is UK's government's air base called Diego Garcia, which is there, which is why Trump is again and again saying that this is not something that he is agreeing to. All right. So we will not go into too much of a detail at that particular portion, but you will have to remember that which is this particular area. Okay. Next, the question can be from this particular region is, it is asking for correct answer. So let's see how many of you are able to correctly answer this. Pause it, try and answer it, and then we'll discuss it in the next session. All right, you can pause it here. All right, let's look at the next one. That is again a volcano called Kilauea Volcano. Kilauea Volcano. Now, where is it? It is in Hawaii. So, the first aspect is where is it located? It is in Hawaii. What kind of volcano is it? Now, this becomes really important because if you look at Hawaii's position, it is right in the middle of the Pacific plate. So, how is it that volcanism is happening in the middle of the plate. So here you have to remember that there are hotspot volcanisms. There is a phenomena of hotspot volcanism. I'm hoping that most of you would have read about it when you were doing the different types of volcanoes, where due to convectional currents inside the earth, these magma is able to rise even inside the plates, right? So it might not be associated with any tectonic plate movement there, right? There is no subduction that is happening, but because there are hotspots due to the convectional current that is happening inside the earth, right, due to which these volcanoes are forming. So no plate boundaries are associated with this particular region, right? No plate boundary is associated, right? No convergence, divergence is happening, no subduction is happening, still there are volcanoes, right? Now, these are really gigantic lava fountains. These are huge, huge volcanic eruptions that is happening here, right? Now, what kind of volcano is it? So, if you look at it, this particular volcano is a shield volcano, right? So, these are huge volcanoes, a lot of magma is coming out, right? But what you have to remember is whether it is very violent or not. How much is it that it is like very violent, very explosive or not? Are shield volcanoes explosive or not? Are they part of the Pacific Ring of Fire? Is it part of Pacific Ring of Fire? Now, if you look at this term itself, Pacific Ring of Fire, so it is not on the periphery, है ना? So it cannot be part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, right? So these are the things that you will have to remember. Okay? These are shield volcanoes, है ना? These are not part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, right? The question associated with it can be, say for example, that this is associated with following geological processes, and let's see how many of you are able to remember this. Shall we pause it here, try and answer? Next question is with respect to which of the following characteristics best describes shield volcanoes? Now this is straight from geomorphology, right? You can totally expect this kind of question, right? So is it having gentler slopes? Is it having fluid basaltic lava? And is it having highly explosive eruptions? So let's see how many of you are able to answer them correctly. I will just pause it here and try and answer this. These are of course related to current affairs, but these are possibilities through which you can expect questions in the mains in the May 2026 prelims. All right. The last one is with respect to Southern Australia. There is a severe drought that has been experienced in this particular region, but we will look at the basic aspect with respect to Australia and where are these particular regions that are associated with it, right? So Southern Australia is this particular region, okay? Western Australia. Now Southern Australia, there is a city of Adelaide, right? The city of Adelaide is associated with Southern Australia, right? This is an important place. Why? Because of course, whenever India goes to test match tours, so most probably you will find one of the test matches that is happening in Adelaide, right? But in other ways also it is very culturally vibrant, important. Quite a lot of Indian people are diaspora is there, right? In this regard, this particular region is also having an important basin called Murray-Darling Basin, right? There is an important island called Tasmania, right? Now, if you have to remember it, so it is this island from where Ricky Ponting comes, right? For those people who are able to who are some cricket buffs, so they can remember that this is Tasmania, from where Ricky Ponting comes. But anyway, of course, anything that helps you remember these things is good, right? Don't worry, whatever mnemonics you are making, even if it may sound stupid, even if it may have very diverse linkages, just try and remember it however you can. So in this regard, this Southern Australia is having a region that is very close by but not exactly connected to it, that is Tasmania, right? These regions are very arid, like they have climate is very variable, they have a lot of drought conditions, right? In this particular region, you will of course is the Great Barrier Reef. New Zealand is quite a bit far away from the eastern coast of Australia. So remember that there is thousands of kilometers of difference between New Zealand and Australia, right? It is not very close by. Most of the maps it is shown very close by, but there is a lot of difference with respect to the kilometers, right? In this region also, you can find that there are some aspects which is that here it is close to equator, right? These regions are close to equator, so it will have a very different climatic condition rather than if you are going to the Tasmanian region or the Southern Australian region, which are much more colder. So climate is also very variable in this particular region. Mostly the interiors of Australia are very dry, right? So interiors are very dry. That is why most of the cities that you will associate are on the edges, right? All the Melbourne, Sydney, Adelaide, right? All of these, Hobart, all of these are on the edges of the continent, right? And the middle of the continent is almost empty, right? So this is with respect to Australia or Southern Australia, where there was a severe flood that happened. Okay, so this is it. The question regarding this particular portion you might be asked is that Murray-Darling Basin is associated with which country? That is all. Let's see how many of you are able to answer them correctly. All right, that is all for today. Thank you so much. Wish you all the very best. ख्याल रखिए, खुश रहिए, खूब बढ़िया से पढ़ाई करते रहिए, and meet you in the next class. All the very best to all of you.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.